Millions of millennials are making decisions about their future, how much to spend and how much to save. We've heard lots of reports about how boomers will face a retirement crisis, but what about the millennials? Yes, there's more information out there, but is it the right information been delivered in the right way, the way that millennials consume knowledge? We're joined now by the head of UK Wealth and Retail for ETFs and Index Investing at BlackRock, Joe Parkin. Thanks very much for coming in. I mean, if you Google millennials, you get so many different headlines about how millennials are changing the investing, how the use of tech and social is changing the way we see things. Why is there so much focus at the moment on millennials?
Well, and thank you for having me. So we call people born between 1981 and 1997 millennials, mainly because they became adults around the time of the 2000 millennial. They are becoming so important because firstly, they are the largest population in the UK. There's about 17 million of them, so that's a quarter of the UK population. I think the second thing is, in 2015, globally, they became the largest population within the workforce. And they're also getting to an age where they are starting to have money. So the oldest is about 35. And they're starting to save and invest that money in a way that becomes significant for the wealth management industry.
Is it also because we're seeing so many changes in regards to the way people communicate and how people learn about things that there's this focus?
Yeah, I mean, completely. And millennials have been at the forefront of that, and they only know that way. So they sit somewhere between the evolution of the Walkman and Google. And so they've always grown up in this society where they've been online, they've interacted with social media, and their buying habits are very, very different. So if you think about how a millennial thinks about something, you give a recommendation for a restaurant. The first thing he does is he may ask a few friends. The second thing he does is he Googles it, he plays around on the website potentially, and he looks for peer reviews on that particular website. So the whole thing has changed in terms of how they consume and how they look at things.
If the way they've consumed has changed, do you feel that the wealth industry has changed enough as well to react to that?
No, and I think the wealth industry is one of the last bastions that is still sitting in a place where it's kind of almost blind to the advances that have gone on in technology, the changes in population dynamics such as the millennials, and the ability to be online. And so I think the wealth management industry has some place to come. I think we need to put a lot of it online. I think the iPhone is not a used enough tool in our industry. And I think as well, the advent of technology and the increase in technology will help these people to scale up their services. One of the reasons why millennials is ignored by the wealth management industry is because of the size of their savings and the size of their investments, which at the moment, on average, we estimate that a millennial has about £13,000 in savings. That doesn't really cut it for many of the wealth management firms in the UK. But when you get the technology a lot better and you can scale up your infrastructure, then 17 million people with an average of 13,000 actually becomes really, really attractive. And if you look at some of the modern firms coming into the wealth management industry, particularly in the States, they don't even look at AUM, they look at number of customers because it doesn't matter, their technology is that scalable.
So how quickly would it take for this change, I suppose, to take place?
I think we're at a tipping point right now. So I think the technology's there now. So a huge amount of going on in sort of the financial or in fintech, and customers and people are starting to build solutions that cater for that particular thing. I think the second thing that's happening is a very clear need for this stuff. So people are having to focus a lot more individually on their finances. So the corporate, people typically got a workplace savings scheme, and the state are starting to pull back from retirement or from your savings. And so people are starting to have to take responsibility for that and doing so earlier, which I think is a super important thing to have.
And the earlier thing is a key thing because there's so much more focus on, you're going to have to provide for yourself later on in life. So does that then play also into what the millennials are looking for in terms of advice, in terms of what they get from their wealth managers?
Yeah, they want to be put in control. They're also pretty time poor, so they want a guided solution when it comes to, they don't have hours to look through hundreds and hundreds of funds, so they want something that's off the shelf. They also want to be able to interact with it. There's a lot of freemium going round so you think about it. they want to, if they hear about something, they want to be able to go online, they want to be able to look on it, they want to be able to download an element that's free, they potentially want to be involved in some sort of gamification of it, they don't want to spend hours signing up for it or get a letter 2 weeks later with a password to their online access. They want everything. It's about the now. The other thing I think that's really important, and we've done some work with some digital brand and marketing agencies, is that the luxury consumer brands. So luxury consumer brands are really interesting because they have a clear target that they go after. Previously, until mid last year, they haven't really been interested in the millennial population because they weren't rich enough to buy their goods. They are starting to engage and say to these luxury brand and marketing agencies, how do we talk to these people? And so that was a really clear indication for us that these millennials are 35, they're starting to look at they're starting to have money, they're starting to invest, they're starting to earn money. They've also been through a really 2008 to 2016 hasn't been a particularly great time for these people to generate higher incomes. Things have been pretty static. It's been a pretty challenging environment. So we think it's a bit of a tipping point for millennials, as well as technology coming into play, as well as people actually getting to grips with the fact that they need to be more digital and provide a solution for this new world.
Also, the products, the number of different products available has changed quite significantly as well. Obviously, your role with ETFs, how does that play in? Is that the kind of product that millennials are looking at, that need? Yeah,
we think ETFs are the perfect tool for the millennials. They are a millennial ETF, so they're the kind of new kid on the block. They're very transparent. They're great value for money. Millennials are very keen on value for money. They won't just buy expensive, or they won't just necessarily buy cheap. They'll do their research, and they're great to create sort of guided portfolios. So portfolios at a great cost, that's simple to understand, easy to put your money into on a regular basis. And so ETFs, we feel, are going to play an enormous part in kind of the advance of the millennial and the saving infrastructure, or the investment infrastructure. And I think this is the final point, which is actually what we're trying to do by doing things digitally and doing stuff for millennials, is actually solving a social problem, which is that people are living older. They're not saving or investing enough, and if they're saving, they should be investing, because given where interest rates are, people are never going to get to it. And if you can convince people at the millennial age to start to do this, then that problem goes away, rather than waking up when you're sort of 40, 45 and starting to save then. So I think it's actually something that we just need to do and solve a social problem that we face in the UK.
As you say, a great point to end on. Thanks very much, Joe. Joe Parkin there on how the wealth management industry is having to change the way it thinks if we're to prevent the millennials facing a retirement crisis.